welcome to the Government Operations and Regulations Committee. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023, and I do detect a quorum with council members Nash, Hancock, Porterfield, Swope, Young, and myself present. So we have 6, and Cash, we have 7 present. All right, we have a short agenda, just 2 items, and then we have a presentation by Council Member Hancock. So let's, in regards to real estate. So, and the real estate study that had been worked on last year, that is something that we've got an update on today. So, we have 2 resolutions. We'll kick these off first and then we'll follow up with a short presentation. RS 2023-2046 by Roten, Syracuse, and Johnston. This amends the pay plan adopted for employees of the Metropolitan Departments of Police and Fire effective July 1st, 2022.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. I guess from the administration, or I guess Director Hall, would you like to share with us? You've shared with me, but do you want to run us through?
I kind of want to hit a rewind and then play because I just did it with the last committee. This is a required legislative process to amend the pay plan to provide entertainment district unit incentive pay. This is a specialized unit that is created that is going to be patrolling, and I kind of wish I had a police partner here, but I'll do the best I can. That is actually dedicated to the downtown entertainment district on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays during peak hours where we have the most traffic and tourists and residents that are all down here. What we have been doing is supplementing, mandating overtime for officers across all precincts into the downtown entertainment district. I can verify that HR and police can both substantiate that on exit interviews, we are starting to lose a number of officers, and the number 1 reason cited is because of the mandated overtime. So one of the solutions that HR and police started working on over the past couple of months in consultation with the FOP was a way to incentivize a dedicated unit of officers and pay them appropriately for the challenges they're facing. So it is $1,250 per month for the dedicated unit officers that are working in a pretty challenging part of town, very high traffic during peak hours that are also less advantageous as well. This is something, we looked at a number of different solutions, and I think ultimately what the council and the city looks to both the police department and HR for in this particular case is to make sure that we have good bodies performing good duties, right? And so this was starting to become an issue as people were, a retention issue as people were leaving the police department. So this collection of strategies with overall pay plan collection of strategies, which we bring every single year, we'll be seeing you guys this spring for as well. We believe that this will properly incentivize those officers. I will mention that the police rebid process runs from February 1, I think, through January. They have already created the entertainment district unit. They did start working this dedicated unit and schedule in February with the hope and promise, but we needed this legislative process, including 2 readings by our Civil Service Commission, which are obviously recommending this as well, and then a pay plan amendment, which I don't take lightly, but I think was totally appropriate in this particular situation. So we've got officers doing it without this pay now with the promise that they could be compensated for this with this resolution, and we would have it effective March 1 because we're in their current pay period right now. We also think that this is going to keep more dedicated officers in the 35 districts, which is where they want to be. It's also going to allow this dedicated unit to work directly and start building relationship with the downtown business partners, I think, for more effective policing downtown as well.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you. How will this keep more officers in the 35 districts?
Because we're not pulling from the districts, mandating overtime downtown, which also is inadvertently having officers leave us. That's the number 1 cited reason as we are having officers leave us now. So instead of pulling for your district stays staffed with those people. We're not pulling from them to mandate overtime after they've worked their 40 plus hours in your districts. mandating them downtown to work overtime. We also think it'll be a cost avoidance over what we're doing now because those officers are making time and a half versus the flat $12.50 that will go for those dedicated units.
How much are the officers, what's the average of what the officers are making now in overtime?
I'm not sure exactly what that data is. I do know that she's correct that the analysis was that it should be, I think, double, possibly 3 times the amount of savings versus the overtime that we're expending, because it was run purely off of overtime until the dedicated unit began their work on February 1st.
But we don't know how much we paid in overtime? We know this is gonna save us money, but we don't know how much we paid?
No.
And while the officers get in that, I have another question. Is there a way that the downtown businesses can put into this? Like, is there a fund that they can put into to help cover some of this expense?
I believe it's probably all the extra sales tax they generate.
Yes, it is.
The question is to you.
I don't know functionally, I'm not in charge of how funding would happen. I'm in charge of the lane of employing and paying officers, which are typically paid out of an operating budget. So I would love to answer your question, but I am not ill prepared. It's not my lane. I have no idea.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In the last committee meeting, Tom Turner was here from the Downtown Business Group, and he mentioned the increase in sales tax that
Yes.
they pay, and there's another tax that they also pay, which doesn't directly go to this unit,
But it's meant for public safety issues.
yeah.
Councilmember Hancock?
I'd just like to make a comment on the wage because average officer salary of $50,000 is $25 per hour, so overtime would be like $12.50, which would be $37.50. And they were saying that it saves or cuts the cost in thirds, which $12.50 times 3 would be $37 and change. So if you don't want to keep texting, I think that.
I'm sorry, I was trying to.
No problem. I understand. I appreciate your diligence.
$2.8 million per year in overtime costs.
Oh my gosh.
This is significantly less. I mean, you can quantify that. How many officers times 12? It's $15,000.
30 officers, 30 officers and 5 supervisors.
So 35 people times 15,000. I mean, I remember the estimates. Police was preparing the estimates, so I don't have that off the top of my head, but it was $200,000 or $300,000.
If I can rein this into this committee's oversight, government operations, from the perspective of budget matters to me, and I'm on that committee, and that's really important, but I want to keep our focus within government operations. Quick question, who started this request? Was this a request from the department to improve?
Yeah, we were having a substantial number of officers that were leaving the department that were citing as a basis for their departure mandated overtime, particularly the mandates that were occurring for the downtown entertainment district initiative. And so part of the process that we looked at was, one, making it not a mandated overtime assignment, making it a permanent assignment, and then looking at a way to incentivize and retain officers who would be willing to work that. And I'll say this too, that some of those that didn't come up. When you're mandating officers at overtime downtown, you're pulling officers from all over that don't normally work that area. And downtown is unique. There's a lot of code provisions that most officers aren't familiar with, but your central precinct officers and your officers that are assigned to central precinct are, vending issues, things like that. And so it's beneficial to have the same officers working in the same area day in and day out, just like people like the same officers in their neighborhood who know things. But that's particularly true in Central Precinct, and this allows for that to happen.
All right, let's see, I think Councilmember Young, then Swope, and start here.
Thank you, Chair. So I know this would go for those that are permanently assigned, but if there are others that are filling in, will they get any sort of extra compensation if they're filling in? Like, I mean, if there's temporary assignment, or I guess if folks are off that are permanently assigned, I guess that gets filled in with someone doing overtime, but will they also get some sort of additional, I mean, it's almost like hazard pay for dealing with tourists. Or is it just for those that's their permanent assignment to be there?
Just for those that are the permanent assignment for the bid year, right? So officers can come in and out of that, but it's just for those assigned. Otherwise, it would defeat the purpose of fill-in. But they will get, those officers that do fill in are likely already working a full shift, so they will get overtime. I mean, that's per FLSA.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Swope?
Based on the math that's been thrown around here, to answer Ms. Porterfield's question, right now we currently pay $2.8 million in overtime. The new pay plan reduces that to $525,000.
So if we're going back to budget issues, is the 2.8 all for downtown, or is that overtime for the department as a whole?
No, that is what we were spending on overtime to fund the Entertainment District Initiative.
Downtown.
The officers on Broadway that are now the Entertainment District unit.
So comparing apples to apples.
Thank you. If I could then, again, I want to focus this committee's work on government operations. I do think that there's a budget component there. I just want to make sure that we recognize that that's a $1.8 million savings. So as we head into this budget year, let's think about how we can put $1.8 million of the police budget to work, since it's going to be a savings from this part of town. So to me, this sounds like a good piece of legislation.
$2.3 million savings a year.
2.3, sorry, I thought it was 2.
The difference between 2.8 and 525.
Sorry, I was thinking it was 2.3 and 5. So, all right, so a $2.3 million savings I'd love to see in the budget put towards something else as we look towards that and other operations that we can do throughout the city. So, yeah, go ahead.
I suspect most of that money is coming from positions that have been funded but not filled yet.
Regardless, I think it's important to say that today, if there were saving $2.3 million in the budget, that opens up $2.3 million for something in that budget, regardless of whatever that expense is.
Start to fill those positions
Well,
up.
that'd be brilliant if we could get some people turned, pulled over in my district. But moving on, we've had discussion. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries 7 in favor, 0 against. Next, we have Resolution RS 2023-2052 by Roten, Allen, and Welsh. This approves a grant from the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee to the Information Technology Services Department to fund the position of Digital Inclusion Officer to manage the allocation of resources to ensure equitable service delivery and expand economic opportunities in meeting the needs of the underserved.
So moved.
Second. All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? I guess, could the administration or the council office? All right. Anybody here to explain?
What the bill does, what the resolution does.
Yep.
It's a grant that will fund 1/3 of the position for digital inclusion officer for 2 years. There's a grant match that Metro has to put forward. The other 2/3 of the salary, the compensation, will be coming in resolutions at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. I think from a government ops perspective, this is something that we're seeing in the IT world and throughout many organizations. So I do see a business need for this. So I think hopefully it should be a good addition to the ITS team. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so passes 7-4-0 against. That completes the legislative agenda. Councilmember Hancock, the former chair of this committee, has an update on a real estate project that was started during her tenure as chair of this committee and that has continued on. And so she's volunteered to give us an update today.
All right, so our last update was in September. Got about 6 months of work behind us, so a few things to tell you. And we do have Beth Williams, the Special Projects Director, Velvet Hunter, our General Services Interim Director, and Abraham Westcott, our Public Property Director. Is that right? I'm all here to answer the detailed questions you may have, in case it's beyond my knowledge, because I'm not a real estate expert. But we did get a brief overview of the multiple tasks that we're going to be doing. So task 1, which was completed in September of 2022, we identified solutions for immediate space needs related to expiring leases and recent growth, and that provided 3 key recommendations. The first one was to densify the Department of Human Resources into the Howard office building, and that included the Departments of Finance, General Services, and ITS to create an administrative hub at the Fulton campus. And Human Resources is currently located within Parkway Towers, but that lease location we have to vacate by October 2023. Second is to convert Lindsley Hall into a multi-use conference, collaboration, and drop-in space for use by all Metro departments. This opportunity is created by co-locating the Central Services Department within Howard office building. And then third, to secure locations for departments that have unique or customer-centric needs and or adjacency requirements that wouldn't optimally be served by any facilities we currently have in our Metro portfolio. So for example, the public defender is currently located at Parkway Towers, but we have a new lease for the public defender within walking distances to the courthouses, which is much more accessible for the public. And a new lease at Metro Center for a Metro Action Commission and Social Services. They're currently at the Clifford Allen building, but that has been sold and we have to vacate by December of 2023. So these new locations provide better space, customer accessibility for these departments to continue performing their important work for the community. We're currently working on task 2, which is supposed to be completed by the end of this month, and that's to identify solutions for long-term space needs across different parts of our portfolio, including logistics and operational facilities. And that will culminate in the real estate master plan document, which we've all been anticipating. So coming soon.
All right, thank you.
Do you have questions for our experts?
And we do have folks in the room who can help us, so I think this is an important piece that, we've been looking at and that I saw recently in the press in regards to understanding what real estate assets the city has and how are we using them. And so I think that's the focus from the start of looking at this, this is real estate that the city owns. And going back 5 years ago, we were taking not just buildings, but land, and sometimes building, and we were, selling it in order to keep the lights on operationally. And so now that we're not in a position where we need to do that, I want to understand, and we want to understand, and the community, the citizens want to understand, what is it that the city owns? What is it that the taxpayers own that then we can utilize to, make sure that we're not spending money where we ought not be spending money? Are we utilizing our facilities for the things that our taxpayers would like us to use them for? Are we maximizing every square inch of a school, for instance, or are they sitting half empty? So I look forward to seeing more on the master plan. You say later this month, March?
By the end of this month is the plan.
All right. And I guess, can we plan to get maybe we'll do a special committee meeting just for that? I guess, what are your thoughts as far as the breadth of knowledge of information?
Yeah, I think we could look at the calendar and when our consultants are in Nashville as well, so that we can make sure to have all the folks in the room and do a special meeting. That's a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, if we can, it sounds like the winner. Any committee discussion on that? Cool. All right. Any other business in front of this committee? Thank you for your work on that, and thank you to the committee for your work on that.
Thank you.
That's a big undertaking, so thank you. Any additional discussion for the committee? All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I should say thank you, youngster.